Hey, what's up guys? My name is Sal, and this is another expedition log. Today we're traveling out to Gaithersburg, Maryland to inspect a mall that I suspect to be deceptively tawdry. By that I mean, it seems like it's doing well. It has all of its anchors and the occupancy seems really high, but I'd like to take a closer look. My intent is to open the kimono and to see exactly what makes up this beautiful mall, because I have a feeling the stores are really low quality. Because of all the crime I've been reading about in this area in recent years, something else has to be happening here. So come take a walk with me and let's take a tour of the Lakeforest Mall in Gaithersburg, Maryland. My sponsor for this film is Woodward and Lothrop, Woody's.
There's something better than a pot of gold at Woodward and Lothrop. It's a store full of savings. 15 to 50% savings throughout every Woody's store during Woody's anniversary sale. Savings on spring fresh fashions for you, your home, and your family. Skirts, suits, dresses, shoes, sheets, tables, and TVs. They're all at 15 to 50% savings right now during the anniversary sale at Woodward and Lothrop, where the rainbow ends and the savings begin.
In 1966, three brothers, Clarence, Milton, and Charles Kettler, broke ground on Montgomery Village and would develop farmland into a small suburb in Gaithersburg, Maryland. To make the flat geology of the farmland appear more mature and lush, the Kettler brothers shipped in 10,000 fully grown pin oak trees and a state-of-the-art piece of equipment to plant them. They also wanted more bodies of water, so they dug out and subsequently flooded an area to make a huge lake. So they created a lake and a forest, and the Village Mall, which is just a tiny mall for the area. As the Montgomery Village flourished over the next decade, plans to develop 130 acres of nearby land were announced, and the Kettlers sold the land to this guy, retail magnate and business superstar Adolph Alfred Taubman. Taubman had 65 million square feet of shopping space development under his belt across 17 major regional centers. The Taubman Company broke ground on a 1.1 million square foot mall in the late 70s. Roused by neighboring Montgomery Village's beautiful and lush surroundings, the mall would be called Lakeforest. Its original anchors were Sears, JCPenney, Hecht's, and Woodward and Lothrop. When asked about the aggregate planters used for the jungle and the greenery around the mall, they said that they would only use fiberglass resin impregnated with stone rather than the typical travertine marble, because the marble takes too long to get replacement parts from Italy, and they want the mall to always look good, so they wanted something that was easily repairable. The grand opening and ribbon cutting was September 12th, 1978, and due to Taubman's standards and the subsequent high rent, only 30 to 40 of the 125 inline spaces were occupied at ribbon cutting, which was held atop their beautiful center-set, moat-surrounded stage that looked like an amphitheater, and it also had a dressing room. It was touted as being one of the only malls at the time to actually have a green room in the middle of the mall. In the beginning, the mall was incredibly successful. Taubman was so confident in the mall's success that he decided to purchase not only the Woody's store at Lakeforest, but the entire company. The deal was finalized in 1984, valued at $220 million. The same year, while he was on his shopping spree, Taubman was invited as a welcomed white knight to purchase the Sotheby's auction house. The entire thing. Concordantly, Taubman became an avid and respected art collector and turned Sotheby's into the luxury dealer that it still is today. On August 3rd, 1992, Taubman announced the initial public offering for the Taubman Company. Due to an agreement reached years prior at the conception of the Taubman Realty Group, the General Motors Pension Trust would have a 41.5% equity stake in the company due to the loan that they offered Taubman in the very beginning. The timeout zone. The first thing that I saw walking into this mall, and it gave me my first impression. But I was hopeful, and I wanted to keep going so I can see exactly what stores were in here. In August of 1995, the first changing of the guard occurred, and Woodward and Lothrop failed, and it turned into a Lord & Taylor. On August 20th, 1998, Taubman announced a complex deal with the General Motors Pension Trust to regain 21.5% of the total equity stake from GM, for which Taubman would pay by giving 100% ownership of 10 malls to GM. The entire deal was valued at $1.43 billion and gave Taubman 57.5% and majority stake in their own company. 4 years later, in 2002, Mr. Taubman was found guilty by jury to have illegally manipulated the commission fees at Sotheby's to compete against their rival, Christie's. He was sentenced to a year and a day, but he only served 9 months. He was released in May 2003, and he swears that he was innocent. Then in April of 2004, GM decided to put the mall up for sale. And while Taubman did express interest in buying the mall back from GM went in another direction. I can only imagine why. The Mills Corp, in a $1.3 billion deal, acquired a 50% interest in 5 A-class properties and 100% interest in 3 B-class properties from GM's portfolio, of which the triple B- rated Lakeforest was included. Lakeforest alone cost Mills $271.1 million, despite a 2004 assessment of $121 million and sales of $253 per square foot. Mills immediately announced huge renovations, but it never happened. In 2005, Federated Department Stores acquired Hecht's, and then in 2006, Federated acquired the May Company. As a result, the Lakeforest Hecht's was converted into a Macy's. On April 6, 2007, the Mills Corp officially went defunct when they were bought out by Simon for $1.35 billion. As we continue discussing the mall's history, I'd like to start a running count of all of the low-quality stores, just to see what makes this mall tick. So let me know how many you find in the comments, in case I missed any. By March of 2010, occupancy in the mall had fallen to about 60%, and the loan was in danger of default, so it was sent to special servicing. Due to disagreements, the loan was sent to a second special servicer, but the loan did default in 2011. The servicer agreed to allow Simon to sell the mall to Stamford, Connecticut-based 5 Mile Capital for $102.5 million, and to write the loan balance down to $82 million, with a new maturity date of September 2015. 5 Mile immediately announced an ambitious $20 million revival plan. But since the anchors owned their properties outright and they were all still there, and they had voting power, they shut the project down. Instead, 5 Mile spent $1.3 million to remove the center fountain and children's play area, and was completed in 2013. They just tiled right over it. The graceful touch, number 11. This brings us to story time. It involves him. He saw me filming and promptly walked out and said, "Hey, what are you doing?" Now, I didn't know who this gentleman was, and I assumed that he was staff. I obviously stopped filming, and, I told him I was just taking some pictures, and he said, "Oh, I know everything about this mall." So in a seemingly happy turn of events, I engaged him in a conversation. I said, "Oh, are you willing to talk?" And he said, "Yeah, sure, absolutely, let's talk." Right away, he said, "I'd appreciate it if you bought me some food first." Now, I don't know this guy, and of course, he's doing me a favor. So I said, "Sure, no problem." And the first food establishment that I saw was an Auntie Anne's. So I asked him, I said, "Hey, is it okay if I just buy you a pretzel, lemonade, water, or whatever?" And he said, "Yeah, that's great." So we started walking over to the Auntie Anne's, and along the way, he said, "You know what? I'd really like a steak." So I said, "Come on, man, I just want 5 minutes of your time. And frankly, I don't know where I could get you a steak dinner in here." And he said, "Well, do you have a car? I know of a place we can drive to." I said, "Are you kidding me? You want me to drive you to a steakhouse so that you can tell me 5 minutes of mall history?" And he's like, "Forget it, just forget it. Let's go to Auntie Anne's." I said, "Okay, that's fair." So we went over to Auntie Anne's. I paid the lady for a pretzel, a lemonade, and a water. I went and found the gentleman again, and I gave him his food and beverages. He took them from me, and he promptly walked over to the trash can and threw it all out. I said, "What are you doing?" He told me, "I'm showing you where your heart is. Your heart's in the garbage because you wouldn't buy me a steak and you're taking advantage of me." I said, "I just wanted to talk for 5 minutes and you said it was okay if I bought you a pretzel." So he scurried away, and I followed him back to the barbershop where I met him. Now, there were 3 other gentlemen in the barbershop who were barbers that worked there. I went up to one of them and I said, "Do you know this guy?" They said, "Yeah, he's been in here before." And I told them what happened. And then one of the gentlemen looked at the guy that I gave the pretzels to, and he said, "We just gave you money when you asked us for it. Why did you throw this guy's pretzel out?" To which the gentleman replied, "Oh, I don't know." And he hurried off again and he left the mall. So I went up to security and I told them what happened. I said, "You might want to watch out for this guy because he seems like he's kind of hassling people for money." And security said, "Yes, no problem, we're on it." After I left the mall, I did call the security office and I said, "Hey, could I get that footage?" And they said no. But there were a few other people around the mall that looked a little suspicious. And I don't want to say they were homeless or something like that, but they were just kind of shady characters, and it gave me insight to the nature of the mall and the surroundings. Crime increased dramatically in the area, and by 2017, the assessment fell to $40.2 million. The tipping point was after an MS-13 gang attack. A 16-year-old gang member slashed the tires of some poor guy's car, and when the guy noticed his tires and the kid coming after him, he ran back to the mall. The kid caught up to him, and he knifed him. Fortunately, the guy lived. The mall went up for foreclosure auction after 5 Mile stopped making payments in January 2017. Bidding started at $11.34 million, and the winner was the US Bank, who actually held the note for 5 Mile, and they bought the mall back for $19.1 million. As we get our final look here at the center of the mall, this is where the stage used to be with the fountain and water moat. I'm really sorry that they got rid of that, because in its time it was gorgeous and it would have made the mall much more attractive. And I really hope this mall makes it. The management has a lot of work to do and they need some better retailers. I'd like to thank all of you for watching this video, and I appreciate every one of you, and thank you so much for helping me reach 1,000 subscribers. That's a huge milestone for this channel, and it really inspires me to keep pushing and to keep making these films. So if there's something that you liked about this film, please like and subscribe and set your notifications on, because there's a ton more content coming. And if there's something that you didn't like, let me know in the comments why, and I'll do my very best in the future to make it better. So thanks again, everybody. Take care.